Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Here we are once again for another live here on YouTube. How are you guys? How are you? How are you? Let's see people joining little by little. Hello. As you join, please say hello here in the chat so I know that you are joining. Hello. From the get-go, let me ask you guys about my video here. Is my video lagging? You see, I am waving right now. Waving with one hand, with two hands. Is the video lagging? Please let me know if the video is lagging or if the video is all right, if it is seamless. Yeah. So the video is not lagging. I hope not. Yes. Okay. Everything's okay. And also let me know about the audio. Can you guys hear me okay? Is the audio clear? So the video is pretty good. Very good to know. And the audio, can you hear me okay? Is the audio all right? Yeah. In the meantime, great. Thank you for letting me know, guys. Let me shout some of you guys out. But yeah, to those of you who are joining now, say hello, introduce yourselves, tell me where you're from, tell me where you are right now, and I'll be shouting you out a little bit before I begin with the content that I planned for today. Okay. So some people are saying hi. Tolik. Hello, Thiago. Nice to see you, man. How are you? How was your day? Hello, Tolik. I'm doing well. Yeah. Nice to see you again. Nice to have you here. Thank you for joining. Yeah. And yeah, the day so far has been going well. Yeah. The weather is not my favorite, to be honest. It's kind of dark and cloudy and rainy today over here. Not my favorite type of weather, to be honest. It's funny, guys, because I find that the older I get, the more I miss the sun and the more I feel the cold. When I was younger, I didn't really care so much about the cold, whatever. But now, cold weather, cold days have been really, I've been feeling it more, maybe it's the age. Yeah. But it's all good. Yeah. Thanks for the question, Tolik. We have here, man, I'm sorry, I can't say your name. Yeah, maybe if you can write in the chat how I would pronounce your name, that will help. But hi, hello, welcome to the live, and we have here RFL floor mat. Good afternoon. It's night, 1 a.m. Wow, it's 1 a.m. for you there? Where are you? I mean, where are you connecting from? I wonder, yeah? 1 a.m. Wow. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining. Martha. Hello, Teacher Thiago. Hello, Martha. Welcome to the live. Martha is from Bolivia. Awesome. Shout out to Bolivia. Nice, Martha. Really good. Mohammed Mustafa. Hi, Teacher Thiago. Hello, Mohammed. Welcome to the live. Let me see here. What else? Yeah, people are saying that the audio is clear. All right. Very good. Good to know. Good to know. Ana Maria, hello, teacher. I'm here again. Thank you for your support. Thank you for joining, Anna. Thank you for being, an ongoing supporter. That's great. Welcome to the live. RRC from Germany. Awesome. Shout out to Germany. Welcome to the live. That's really cool. We have here Samson. Samson? Hello, this is Samson from DRC Congo. Hello, Samson. Welcome to the live. Hope you enjoy it. I hope you have some practice today. Ah, Renata. Hi, Chago. Nice to see you again. Hello, Renata. Good to have you here again. Yeah, welcome to the live once again. You've been coming every week. That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Let me see here. Ah, Martha is asking a very nice question. What have you been up to lately? Well, first of all, this is a great question that you can use, guys, as opposed to maybe how are you? Look, there's nothing wrong with saying how are you, but this is a great question as well. It sounds much more conversational, much more colloquial. What have you been up to lately? Just pay attention to the connected speech here, right? What have you? What have you? That's how I say it, you know? What have you? What have you? What have you been up to lately? What have you been up to lately? Like, what have you been doing lately? Eh? Basically, that's what he means. Well, Martha, I've been just working, just working a lot, just working, teaching classes, coming up with video ideas, making videos for YouTube, just working, but it's nice. It's been fun. And now the weekend is coming, yeah, so we can stop a little bit and chill a little bit. Yeah. Hope you're doing well over there as well, Martha. Yeah, if you want to share what you have been up to lately, feel free to do so. Eric, hi from Quebec. Awesome. Quebec. Wow. It's amazing. People speak French there, don't they? In Quebec, right? French is the primary language there, isn't it? Nice. Canada. Canada. RFL is from Bangladesh. Nice. Nice. Good to have you here. Then we have here the AI Mishka. Hello from Ukraine. Hello. Shout out to you. Thank you for joining. Martha, I think it's not your age. It is the climate change. We tend to have severe weather. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is, but I've been feeling the cold much more lately. I've been preferring hot and sunny days, to be honest. I always joke, yeah, I say that, when the day is hot and sunny, you see that beautiful blue sky and the sun, life feels easier. At least to me, things seem more possible. When the day is kind of dark and gray and cloudy, life feels harder a little bit. But yeah, we need all the four seasons, right? So, Alicia, hello from Poland. Hi, Alicia. Good to have you here. Welcome to the live once again. Thanks for joining. Emily, hello, Thiago. Good night from Turkey. 10 p.m., 10:05. Wow, 10 p.m. Shout out to you, Emily, and welcome to the live. Good to have you here connecting. And yeah, there are many people here joining. That's great. Yeah, Eric says most people speak French in Quebec, and you are a French speaker. Nice. Yeah, I've started learning French recently. Yeah, as I've already shared in one of my episodes, but I'm still a beginner. Yeah, so I gotta get back to it. But I do know that apparently the French in Quebec is slightly different, right? The French spoken in Quebec is slightly different from the French spoken in France, right? Is it Quebecois they call it? Yeah, the variation. You know, really cool, man. Eric, hi from Guatemala. Great. Hello, Eric. Welcome to the live. Then we have the Vagos. I am from Medellin, Colombia. Hello, welcome to the live. I'm trying to shout out as many people as possible here, but the comments are flooding in. Then we have Adriano from Brazil. Hi from Brazil. Hello, Adriano. I think you were here last week, right? Or 2 weeks ago. I remember you, yeah? The great thing about doing lives on YouTube on the same day and time is that, right? Is because we tend to see like the same people, yeah, joining, yeah, and then it becomes a thing, which is great, yeah. Martha, today is my first time here. I'm very excited to interact and practice English in your streamline. Thank you for this lesson. It's a golden opportunity to hone in on our writing and speaking English. Thank you, Martha. Yeah, welcome to the live. It's great to have you here, and I hope you enjoy it. And I've been going live on YouTube every Friday at around this time, so make sure you join the future ones. All right. Andy from Ethiopia. Really cool. Very nice. Okay, guys. So today, as you saw in the title, we're going to be doing a little shadowing practice today. And I basically brought a short paragraph for 4 different levels. For B1 level, for B2 level, for B2, for C1 level, and for C2 level. All right. The information is the same. They are talking about the same thing, but my purpose with today's live and exercise is actually twofold. Twofold. First, to get you to speak out loud a little bit along with me and do some speaking practice, of course, but also for you to see in practice the difference in language between B1 all the way to C2 levels. All right. And then you can see how the grammar is a little bit different, how the vocabulary is a little bit different. All right. First of all, please share here in the chat. What is shadowing again? What is the definition of shadowing? When we talk about English learning or learning a language, we say that shadowing is important. What is shadowing again? Share your definition here in the chat. What is shadowing in language learning? Share that while I water the pipes. Water the pipes. What is shadowing? In the meantime, Emily says something really cool here. Thank you, everybody who founded the internet or created the internet, maybe, because I am on the other side of the world, yeah, and you see me very clearly. Thank you, child. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, we are literally on opposite sides of the world, but here we are. Yeah. So, guys, what is shadowing? Please share your definition here of shadowing. Shadowing. What is shadowing? Shadowing a language. Shadowing. Martha says shadowing could be repeating sentences. Yeah. In a nutshell, at its core, that's what it is. Repetition. Renata says repetition. Yes, it is repetition. And Emily says read with the speaker. Also involved, if you have a transcript next to you and you are listening, you kind of read along with the speaker. Exactly. Andy says shadowing in language learning is a language learning strategy involving repetition after the speaker. Very nice. And RFL says talk at the same time in practice. Exactly. So you have a source material, like, this live right now that you are listening to me talk to you. That is your source material. You can also have movies, TV series, podcasts as source material. And then you listen and repeat what you hear. But it's not just about repeating for repeating's sake, but repeating, trying to copy the tone of voice of the person, the feeling, the pauses, how the person raises and falls the voice. It's like you become a parrot. Parrot, that green bird that repeats everything you say. Yeah, usually parrots in movies, they have a parrot like on their shoulder. It's almost like that. It's about being a parrot. You copy the person you are listening to, not just the pronunciation, but also, like I said, the tone of voice, the pauses, the intonation, everything, you know? Tolik, shadowing is a technique where you listen to speech in your target language and repeat it immediately, almost like an echo trying to copy. Yeah, very nice. Now, there are basically two steps to shadowing. The first step is you listen to the source material. So if it is an audio clip or a podcast clip of 2 minutes, you're going to listen to that. I recommend listening to that a couple of times first, just listening. Could be 2 times or 3 times, just for you to get the feeling and get the vibe of the speaker. Like, how does the person really speak? Do that first. Then the second step is actually about repeating along. Now, there are two ways to do it. Usually people say that you should repeat simultaneously. Imagine, like, you try to speak along with me right now. Like, as you listen, you are speaking along with my voice. That is definitely valid, I think, because it forces you to stop translating in your head and just try to copy live what you're hearing. But personally, as I've already shared here, I've always preferred to do something a little bit more delayed. Let's call it delayed shadowing, meaning that in my case, I've always preferred to listen to a phrase, pause, then repeat right after, you know? So it's almost like delayed shadowing, let's say. So for example, I say, let me water the pipes. This is a live, so it's not possible. Yeah. So imagine it's a recorded video, and then I say, let me water the pipes. And then you pause, and then you repeat that phrase, you know? And then what I would do many times also, if it was something more difficult, I would go back and play that line again, sometimes multiple times, listening and then repeating, trying to copy the way I said it or the way I heard it in the clip. All right. This is usually how I did it. I always did with the delay of pausing because, to me, it made more sense to do that. But you can definitely try both approaches here, either speaking or repeating along, or doing the delayed thing of listening to a part, pausing, repeating, and then go back, listen to that part again, pause, repeat, you know? So, having said that, let's start practicing with the material that I prepared for you today. All right. And we're going to start here with the B1 text. All right. So the text here, hopefully you can see, is about soft skills. It's about soft skills in the workplace. Okay. Now, you will see that the language here is more at B1 level or intermediate level. So first of all, remember, let me read it out loud, the paragraph. And for now, you just listen. Okay? Just listen to me reading it and just try to get how I would read it. All right? So here it is. Listen. Soft skills are very important in the workplace. These are personal skills, not just technical knowledge. For example, good communication helps you work well with your colleagues and your boss. You also need to be a team player and be able to solve problems. If you have these skills, you can have a better professional life and succeed at your job. They are often the key to getting a promotion. You see, so that was the first listen. The main purpose here is for you to listen to my voice, how I read it, where I place the pauses, and how I pronounce certain words. Now we're going to move on to step 2. And now I would like you over there to read along with me. Try to do it simultaneously first, which is the first approach, As I'm reading it, try to read out loud, okay? Trying to copy me, okay? So, are you ready? Let's get started here. 1, 2, 3. Soft skills are very important in the workplace. These are personal skills, not just technical knowledge. For example, good communication helps you work well with your colleagues and your boss. You also need to be a team player and be able to solve problems. If you have these skills, you can have a better professional life and succeed at your job. They are often the key to getting a promotion. So, how did you do? Could you follow along with me? Could you repeat along with me? Now, we can try the second approach, which is what I've always done, which is pausing a little bit. So now I'm going to read one sentence at a time. And after each sentence, I'm going to pause for a few seconds to give you time to do the delayed shadowing. Okay? So, ready? 1, 2, 3. Soft skills are very important in the workplace. These are personal skills, not just technical knowledge. For example, good communication helps you work well with your colleagues and your boss. You also need to be a team player and be able to solve problems. If you have these skills, you can have a better professional life and succeed at your job. They are often the key to getting a promotion. Very nice. You see, so we just practiced the two approaches here. The first one, you were reading along with me. And the second one, there was a little pause. The pause here, imagine you pausing the video if you're watching a movie, a TV show. Okay? So use both approaches or see the one that works best for you, that you feel more comfortable with, and use it. Now, back to the language here. As you can see, this paragraph is a typical B1 level type of language here that I'm using. You know, what is some key vocabulary that we have here? Soft skills, workplace, personal skills, good communication, colleagues, boss, team player, solve problems, professional life, succeed, key, getting a promotion. You see, it's pretty straightforward. The vocabulary here is not so sophisticated. It's pretty simple, pretty direct. It works. All right? Now, some language features. Why is this an intermediate level text? Look, because it uses simple, high frequency vocabulary. It has a use of basic sentence structures like subject, verb, object. For example, look at the first one. Soft skills are very important in the workplace. You see? Soft skills, that's the subject. Are, that'll be my main verb, are very important. And then the object in the workplace. Look at the object as the complement of the sentence. All right? So the structure of the sentences here is pretty simple. Subject, verb, complement. Also, there is a focus on common, concrete terms like boss, colleagues, and use of some common phrasal verbs like work well with. As a matter of fact, this is not a phrasal verb. This is more of a collocation, I would say. All right? Use of common phrases, not phrasal verbs, like you work well with someone. All right? That's not really a phrasal verb. All right? So there you have it. This is a typical B1 level type of text. Okay? So make sure you are repeating along with me. All right? This is very important. Now we're going to move on to the next level. And I think you all can see it, right? Yeah, this is me back to the fold and then right here. Okay. Now we're going to go to B2 level. So the text is the same. I mean, the information is pretty much the same, but now the language is a little bit more high level. So the B2 level, as you probably know, is the upper intermediate level. I also like to call it intermediate advanced because, it is a person who is at an intermediate level and is already tapping into more advanced vocabulary, even grammar. Okay? So first, let me read it once and just listen to me and get the vibe of the reading, vibe of the voice, okay? So, interpersonal skills, often called soft skills, are crucial for professional growth in the modern workplace. Effective communication is one of the most important as it helps foster better collaboration among team members and management. Let me read that part again because there was a little bit of a hiccup there. So, effective communication is one of the most important as it helps foster better collaboration among team members and management. Beyond this, the capacity to be an adaptable and resourceful problem solver is highly valued by employers. Let me read that part again. Beyond this, the capacity to be an adaptable and resourceful problem solver is highly valued by employers. When you can demonstrate these qualities, you not only enhance your own performance, but also contribute significantly to the success of the entire organization. All right? So now let's practice together. First, try to do the simultaneous approach. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Interpersonal skills, often called soft skills, are crucial for professional growth in the modern workplace. Effective communication is one of the most important as it helps foster better collaboration among team members and management. Beyond this, the capacity to be an adaptable and resourceful problem solver is highly valued by employers. When you can demonstrate these qualities, you not only enhance your own performance, but also contribute significantly to the success of the entire organization. All right? That was the first approach, trying to read along simultaneously. Now, let's try the second approach, which is my favorite, the delayed shadowing. Now, for every bit here, I'm going to give you also some seconds of pause to give you time to read it. Ready? So, 1, 2, 3. Interpersonal skills, often called soft skills, are crucial for professional growth in the modern workplace. Effective communication is one of the most important as it helps foster better collaboration among team members and management. Beyond this, the capacity to be an adaptable and resourceful problem solver is highly valued by employers. When you can demonstrate these qualities, you not only enhance your own performance, but also contribute significantly to the success of the entire organization. All right? How did you do? Hope you did well there. Notice that here I didn't pause after each sentence because now this is more of a B2 level type of language, right? I mean, the level is a little bit more advanced. So as you can see here, the sentences are longer, so in order to give you also more time to practice, I stopped at certain strategic parts, not after every sentence, because, sometimes otherwise you will have like too many words to repeat. That's what I mean, if I had done only sentence by sentence. All right. But hopefully you can see here the difference in the language, in the vocabulary. Like I said, the sentences are longer. So what makes this text more B2 level? Let's look at some characteristics here. Look at the vocabulary. Interpersonal skills, crucial, not important, but crucial. Professional growth, effective communication, foster, that's a great word. When you foster something, you encourage it, you promote it. So you see, it fosters collaboration, it encourages collaboration. You see? Management, capacity, adaptable, resourceful, highly valued, demonstrate, qualities, enhance, contribute significantly. You see the difference in language here? More characteristics. We have here a wider range of vocabulary, different words like interpersonal skills, resourceful, collaboration, even crucial. We have more use here of formal language or even academic language like crucial, foster, capacity. We have more complex sentence structures like as it helps foster. Look at the structure, as it helps foster. Or even intensifiers like highly valued or contribute significantly. All right. So uh, that's a typical text at an upper intermediate level, slightly more formal, more academic, depending on the context, you know. So the language here is much more robust, let's say. All right. Let me just see if you guys left any comments related to this first part here that I can address. Tolik says, "Oh, a huge difference between B1 and B2 level." Yes, it is. It is a huge difference, you know. Um, and yeah, I mean, if you felt like it was a little bit difficult, that's fine. You know, even I myself, sometimes you guys heard it, right? I had to reread some parts because now it requires more. The language is more demanding, and we haven't even gotten to the C1 and C2 levels. Now that we're gonna get into C1, C2, guys, are gonna go crazy. Yeah? Like, oh my God, this is like crazy language, you know? Because C1 and C2, they are mainly focused more on academic purposes, They are great levels if you have ambitions to maybe study abroad, take a college course or be able to understand more academic papers, reports. So C1 and C2 is more that kind of language. But let's say that B1 and B2, they are the levels that most people communicate with in everyday conversation, you know? And I would also add, aside from B1, B2, more colloquialisms, like, more colloquial language, you know? The language that we saw here today for B2 is more in the formal academic sphere than the colloquial sphere, but we can also add that. Like, think of everyday conversation in terms of level as B1, B2 level with a lot of phrasal verbs, idioms, like, expressions, colloquial phrases. That's it. That's pretty much everyday communication. When you start studying more C1 type of language or C2, it's much more academic and formal, as you're going to see in a bit. All right. But yeah, that was a nice observation, Tolik, and it's true. All right. We have here Marcos Paulo. Marcos from Brazil. Pleasure to know you. Hello, Marcos. Thanks for the message and welcome to the live. Martha, there is a high difference between the two writings. Yes. Yeah. And my main purpose, guys, is actually to show you this today, I mean, what does B2 actually mean, you know? And let me see here. It's very useful to compare the two variants of the same topic text. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because, the idea is the higher your proficiency level gets, the wider the range of language, grammar, vocabulary you're going to be exposed to. And you should be able to deal with and understand, you know? Marcus, on a daily basis, we speak B2. Yeah, I just mentioned that, Marcus. I would say that most everyday conversation is in the B1 to B2 level with a lot of colloquialisms, expressions, phrasal verbs. Most everyday communication is there. That's why, guys, the B2 level means that you can already successfully immigrate to an English speaking country. You can make friends there. You can work in English at B2 level. The B2 level is all that. It shows that you can operate, you can function well in everyday English speaking environments. That's what it means. So if you ever take a proficiency exam in the future and you get the level B2, it means that you are comfortable with everyday conversations, everyday situations, workplace scenarios. That's it. All right. Now, C1 and C2, like I said, is more for the academic type of, environment. All right. So let's continue now. And now we're going to get to the higher levels, and this is much trickier. All right. And, some of the language here, I might have to reread multiple times. So I think you guys can see the slides again, right? Yes, you can see it. So there you go. Yeah, like that. Very nice. Now let's move on to C1. Okay. So it's the same text talking about the same topic, but look at the difference of vocabulary and structure. All right. So here we go. First, listen to me reading this, okay? The ascendancy of soft skills in the professional sphere underscores their integral role in achieving career longevity and organizational efficacy. Proficiency in areas such as nuanced communication and conflict resolution is paramount for navigating complex team dynamics and cultivating a positive working environment. Furthermore, an innate capacity for critical thinking and proactive problem solving is indispensable for driving innovation. Cultivating these non technical competencies is therefore a prerequisite for any ambitious professional seeking to truly excel and exert positive influence within their field. Woo! That was like, it's a tough one. But this is more the C1 realm of language. You know, again, it's talking about the same thing about the importance of having soft skills at work. But hopefully, you can see that the vocabulary now is much more advanced, much more sophisticated, much more formal, academic, and much more polished. Now, this is very useful knowledge in case you are reading something more dense, more complex. If you are watching maybe a speech, a lecture, a TED talk, or even a podcast that is on a deeper level or on a deeper topic, you need to be familiar with this kind of vocabulary as well, in this kind of language. Now, not necessarily are you going to use this kind of language daily for everyday communication. Like I just told you, most everyday communication is going to happen between B1 and B2 level, with colloquialisms in between thrown in there. But this helps you have the option as well to deal with more complex texts, more difficult texts. All right. And by the way, let me just make a pause here and address this, guys, because this is really important, really important. Sometimes when I'm here on YouTube, in my videos talking about the levels, B1, B2, C1, I get some comments today. I get some comments sometimes that just drive me crazy. People saying, "Oh, but we don't talk," talking about the C1 or C2 level language, right? Some people would say, "Oh, we don't talk like that in everyday communication. Native speakers speak at B2 level. Why would I learn that? Why would I learn C1 language or C2 language?" And then my question is, okay, so just because you're not going to use that language necessarily every day, you're not going to learn it? You don't want to learn it? Is that what you're saying? I mean, I think the main purpose is for you to evolve, right? And get better, I mean, if it is a choice, like, okay, I only care about B1 and B2 language. I'm not interested in C1 or C2 language because, I don't see the importance in that. I don't see why I would learn that. So, it doesn't matter. I don't care. Look, if you think that way, I'm sorry. I'm not the guy for you. Okay. I'm not the teacher to help you. Okay. Because I believe in something completely opposite. I believe in constant improvement. Yes, you are not going to use C1 and C2 language on a daily basis, but you should also know that kind of language. If you ever read something more complex, if you watch something more complex, that's going to make you a more complete user and speaker of English. That's what I believe, and that's the purpose of my channel here, is to help people get from B1 to B2, but not stop there. Be more ambitious and, learn the more sophisticated parts of the language. Think about it that way. Think about your native language. Your native language, maybe you are Brazilian, you speak Portuguese. If you are Polish, you speak Polish, right? Think about your native language. I mean, do you use formal academic language every day? to speak to people? Probably not, right? Probably you use more everyday language in your native language to communicate with people, even at work. But if it is necessary, if you are in a situation where you have to give a presentation that is more formal or more serious, if you are in a more academic or formal scenario, if necessary, you have the conditions, right? You have the option to access that more formal, academic knowledge of our native language to use it, right? So it's kind of the same thing in English. I mean, you're not going to use it every day, but don't you want to have the option to use it if necessary? Or don't you want to have the capacity to understand something more complex if necessary? You see, that's the right mindset, in my opinion, and not this mindset of, oh, it's not used every day, so I'm not going to learn it. Again, if you believe that, I am not the teacher for you. Please stop following me. Go follow somebody else. And I mean it, because come on. Yeah. Anyway, let me see here if I have any comments. Yeah, Khalid, to avoid being stuck in a meeting, let's say, yes. I mean, maybe you want to have a more senior position at the company you work for, you know? And in a senior position, you might come across more sophisticated language or reports or articles or whatever it is, you know? Don't you want to be prepared for that? I mean, I wonder. Yeah. Marcus says, I like listening to politics on English radio, so I can't understand it. Um, I'm not sure what you're saying here, Marcus. Are you saying that you don't understand or it's hard for you to understand politics on the radio? Is that what you're saying? Because if you are saying that, I mean, yeah, I mean, the language might just be more advanced and you might be lost. Okay. Let me see here. Um, where I can find C1 writing. How can I know what level is beyond the complexity of a writing? Um, Martha, you can go to the Cambridge website for that. Cambridge has some samples there for you to take a look at. Go to Google and type in Cambridge C1, Cambridge C1, and then you're gonna find there are some mocks, some simulations, and then you can kind of get a feeling of what C1 level writing or text looks like, But aside from that, think of C1 as something more academic, okay? More academic. So if you search for academic papers online, most of the language you're going to encounter there, you could consider them more at C1, C2 level, okay? So academic papers, reports, yeah? That's what I would say for you to find that, yeah? Yeah. Oh, hi, Alessandro. Good to have you here, man. Language is more than words. It's a complex world, and I surely want to grasp its 360 degrees. Yeah, I mean, that's the right mindset, in my opinion. You want to learn the most about it. Yeah. And Martha says, I want to know all levels of English from the basic to top complex. Yeah, I mean, it gives you more options, it gives you more flexibility as a user of English, you know? hmm And then just to finalize my point, yeah, that I was just making about the importance of being mindful of more advanced language as well. Um, Sometimes I see people saying, I'm showing like a more advanced word, you know, and then I translate like, oh, if you speak Portuguese, that would be like the Portuguese word, and then the person goes, oh, but I didn't even know this word in Portuguese. I don't even know what it means in Portuguese. Well, So maybe, just maybe, that is a sign that you might also need to improve your, vocabulary in your native language. You know, read more books in your native language, improve your level of proficiency and vocabulary in your native language so you can also deal with more complex language in English. Maybe the problem is not even English. It's your native language that you have to, read more and learn more about it. Yeah. But yeah. Um, Marcos, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. I mean, you can understand me perfectly, but when you listen to the radio, you understand. Yeah. I mean, guys, I don't use crazy advanced language here to talk to you. I mean, aside from exercises like that I'm showing you now deliberately, in most of my videos, I'm using B1 to B2 language. And sometimes when I am more intentional because I want to teach you something more advanced, then I use some more advanced words, but it's kind of sporadic. Yeah, because I'm teaching people. Yeah. I'm teaching, English learners as well. And remember, most everyday communication is B1 to B2 level anyway. All right. So maybe that's what you mean, Marcus, because, maybe on the radio, like you said, you are listening to politics or things that are more complex. There is specific vocabulary that you use to discuss those topics. Maybe you just have to become more familiar with those. It's perfectly fine. Yeah. So Khalid says, even if someone doesn't need to speak at a C1 level, he needs at least to understand that level. Yes. I mean, I don't speak using C1 language all the time, but I understand it. Yeah. If I listen to a radio, to a podcast, no problem. You see? So it's also that thing. Yeah. That idea. All right. Nice. Now, guys, to conclude here, we have the last level, C2 level, okay? Now, C2 is insane, but before we get to C2, let me just quickly highlight here some features of C1 or advanced language, okay? So, you see, what makes this a more C1 type of text? The sophisticated vocabulary, like I just mentioned. Look, ascendancy, underscores, integral, longevity, efficacy, proficiency, nuanced communication, conflict resolution, paramount. You see, something paramount is something really important, of the most absolute importance. I mean, I never use paramount when I speak, for example, I usually say, oh, this is important. Or I say crucial. You guys hear me saying crucial all the time. Guys, this is absolutely crucial, or it's key, or it's important. This is more what I use, But paramount also means of absolute importance. Now, even though I don't use it in my speech, I understand it. Like, if I read a text and it has that word, I know what it means. And that's the same thing I want for you guys, to have that flexibility to understand more complex things. We have cultivating, innate, critical thinking, right? Proactive, indispensable, competencies, prerequisite, seeking, excel, and exert. Then we have here some more features of advanced language: extensive and precise vocabulary, like I just shared, use of sophisticated discourse markers and cohesive devices, linking words, basically, like furthermore, therefore. You see, it's not just about using and, but, because, and so, but furthermore, therefore, on one hand, on the other hand, nevertheless, nonetheless, for instance, to sum up, and on like that. You see? And also focus on abstract and complex concepts like organizational efficacy, longevity, and ascendancy and proficiency, like I just shared. Okay? Okay, but now we have the top one, the C2 level. Be prepared because, this one is insane. All right? As you can see here, now the level is, the vocabulary is crazy. Look, first of all, listen to me reading it and just listen to the words, okay? Here we go. It is an axiom that the distinction between a competent employee and an indispensable leader is frequently drawn along the lines of their mastery of soft skills, an area of competency that transcends mere technical acumen. The seamless and perspicacious exchange of ideas. You see, let me read that again. The seamless and perspicacious exchange of ideas, encompassing both overt discourse and the subtleties of nonverbal cues, is pivotal to mitigating internal friction and fostering a truly synergistic atmosphere. A professional who can dexterously employ emotional intelligence alongside robust critical faculties to unravel complex challenges is poised not merely to participate, but to irrevocably shape the trajectory of their enterprise. Whoa, that is a lot, isn't it? I know. And I had the same reaction when I was preparing for C2, for the Cambridge C2 exam. When I was preparing for that exam, I was studying with the course book, and then I was looking at the words like, oh man, I never use these words. These words are crazy. But once you learned some of them, you never forget them. Yeah. And that's what makes it fun. So now let's do the shadowing practice. Okay. First, the first approach, try to imitate, to copy me at the same time. Okay. Here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. It is an axiom that the distinction between a competent employee and an indispensable leader is frequently drawn along the lines of their mastery of soft skills, an area of competency that transcends mere technical acumen. The seamless and perspicacious exchange of ideas, encompassing both overt discourse and the subtleties of nonverbal cues, is pivotal to mitigating internal friction and fostering a truly synergistic atmosphere. A professional who can dexterously employ emotional intelligence alongside robust critical faculties to unravel complex challenges is poised not merely to participate, but to irrevocably shape the trajectory of their enterprise. Ooh, yeah. Welcome to C2, my friends. This is C2 level, all right? Now, the next approach, right? The last approach, the delayed approach, okay? Now I'm gonna pause after some chunks to give you time to repeat along, okay? So here we go. It is an axiom that the distinction between a competent employee and an indispensable leader is frequently drawn along the lines of their mastery of soft skills, an area of competency that transcends mere technical acumen. The seamless and perspicacious exchange of ideas, encompassing both overt discourse and the subtleties of nonverbal cues, is pivotal to mitigating internal friction and fostering a truly synergistic atmosphere. A professional who can dexterously employ emotional intelligence alongside robust critical faculties to unravel complex challenges is poised not merely to participate, but to irrevocably shape the trajectory. Let me say that again, sorry. The trajectory, you see, even I myself struggle sometimes, you see, the trajectory of their enterprise. Ooh, there you go. You see? So how did you do? That was fun, wasn't it? It looks insane, doesn't it? But yeah, I mean, when you read stuff that is super academic or more formal, that's kind of the language that you encounter here. Again, you don't use it every day at all. Yeah, I mean, maybe some words, yes, you know, like, seamless is a pretty common word, competency, indispensable, transcend, synergistic, these are all good. But for example, perspicacious. Look at that word, perspicacious. That is not a word that is used in everyday communication. Yeah? Perspicacious. Yeah? So, um, something to think about. Now, let me show you here quickly the characteristics, right? You see, C1 is about mastery. C1, no, C2, right? C2 is about mastery. It's about mastering the language. Like, you don't just speak the language, you don't just use the language, you have mastered it to an exceptional level. All right? That's why they say, if you look at the CEFR, guys, the C2 level is the closest a non native speaker can get to a native speaker of English. It's not the same, okay? It's not the same, but it's the closest a non native speaker of English can get to in terms of proficiency to a native speaker of English. It's what we call the native like non native speaker, all right? But the person is still a non native user of the language. Keep that in mind. So here is some vocabulary, right, that we have more at C2 level. So axiom, an axiom is a statement, by the way. A statement, a principle, usually believed to be true. Okay? So axiom, distinction, indispensable, mastery, transcends, acumen, or also acumen. Both variations are fine here. If you hear someone saying acumen, that's fine. If you hear acumen, that's fine as well. Seamless, perspicacious, encompassing, subtleties, pivotal. I really like that word, pivotal. For example, getting that job was pivotal in my career. You see, it was like an essential experience that I had to go through. Mitigating, fostering, synergistic, dexterously, robust, unravel, poised, irrevocably in shape. You see the vocabulary here? As you can see here, this is near native vocabulary. Near native, not native, but near native. All right? Sophisticated features. We have a near native range of sophisticated and less common vocabulary. It even says here, less common vocabulary. Use of idiomatic expressions and fixed phrases like drawn along the lines of, unravel complex challenges. I actually I did a video this week for the channel on Monday where I analyzed a clip from Two and a Half Men, and Alan, Alan, one of the main characters, he uses the word unravel in that clip that I worked, this Monday. You see? So even on Two and a Half Men, you see some of these words sometimes, like unravel. But why? Those of you who have seen Two and a Half Men will know that between Charlie and Alan, Alan is more literate. Alan reads a lot. He likes to read. He's more like book smart, let's say. So because of that, he has much more vocabulary than Charlie, for example. Charlie is more the everyday type of speaker. You see? So it's really cool to know these details, Look, high level of grammatical control with complex sentences, including multiple embedded clauses and varied structures. And we have more examples there. Yeah, mitigating internal friction. You see, I'm using the word mitigating, to mitigate, not to reduce. You see, to reduce the risk of something is to mitigate the risk. Hopefully, you can clearly see here the difference in language. All right. So there you have it. What did you think? Was it hard? Yeah. Let me know here. Let me see what you guys are saying. Yeah, Emerson is saying it's hard and looks Khalid says it's way out of the comfort zone. Yes, of course, it is way out of the comfort zone. I mean, for some people, even B2 level can be out of the comfort zone sometimes, yeah? At B2, yeah? Imagine C1 and C2. But that's the fun. That's the fun part, you know? You are pushing yourself and you are getting better and more refined as a speaker of English, you know? But it's important for me to tell you guys that, you know, not everybody needs to go for C1 and not everybody needs to go for C2, especially C2. I think C2 is such a specific level. I think it only makes sense if you are an English teacher like me, you know, as an English teacher, I think you want to have the highest level of proficiency possible because, you know, it's your job, right? It's what you do professionally. But not only that, but if you love languages, if you love the English language, if you love studying English, and you want to go all the way, yes, if you are that type of person, it makes sense to want to go all the way for C2. But for most people, I would say if you have like academic aspirations of some sort, and most people do, yeah, because you know we go to university, we study, we read stuff. C1 is great already. C1 is amazing. Yeah, I think C1 is an excellent level for everybody to strive for. But there are some people who are, just want to, you know, speak good enough English to travel or to get a job, and that's it, you know. In that case, becoming a solid B2 is more than enough for you. Becoming a solid, I mean, a solid B2 level, you're good to go. Yeah. Maximum C1, C2 is very specific. I think it's awesome to go all the way there, but you don't have to go for C2. It's super specific. But C1 is a very good level that can open many opportunities for you. Okay? Um, guys, if you have any questions now, it's a good moment. Yeah. If you have any questions here to ask, feel free to ask. A few questions here. And let me see if you have some questions here that I can answer before we close. Let's see. Let me see here. Samson, I have a problem of reading. What can I do to improve my reading skills? Um, this is gonna sound very obvious, but it's true. You gotta read more. Okay? Like for real, read more. Do you already read books in English? Do you have the habit of reading books in English? If not, develop the habit. You know, pick a book, you know, that is not so hard and start reading it and go easy. You know, you can read like one page per day. Maybe read one page in the morning, you know, and then it's great because once you finish this first book in English, you're gonna want to read the second one and then the third one, and then it becomes a habit. You know, I have a student like that. I have a student who didn't have the habit of reading books in English before, but then he started reading books a little bit every day, 1 to 2 pages a day, and now he has already read, I don't know, 3, 4 books, and he has developed the habit. So I would say read more books. You know, um, pick a topic that you like and read about it. Yeah, 1 page per day to start is great. All right. Tolik, teacher, we agree with you. Man, we need to be better. Yeah, I mean, come on, man. I believe that one of the main goals of a human being is to always get better, is to always improve, to always learn. You know, I truly believe that. So, you know, it's important. Yeah. Ah, Martha is saying something really interesting. Look, I usually understand lectures, simple lectures. However, I don't understand friends. Something is wrong with me. No, nothing is wrong with you, Martha. Let me tell you what probably is happening. When you watch lectures, even simple lectures, the language there tends to be more formal, more academic. And you told me that you are from Bolivia, right? If you are from Bolivia, it means that you speak Spanish as your first language. Here's the thing. Listen to this, okay? In English, words in English that are similar to Spanish, Portuguese, my native language, Italian, French, they are more formal. They are more academic, because these words, they come from Latin. Just like these languages, Spanish, Portuguese, French, Italian, they come from Latin. So English has more Latin derived vocabulary, and that type of vocabulary is more academic, is more formal. So probably you feel that you understand lectures more because of that, because maybe you see words that you can recognize in Spanish, maybe like accelerate, for example, or commemorate, occasional, words like that. Now, if you watch Friends, for example, or another sitcom, the language they use there is not academic, is more colloquial. First of all, not only is the language more, as we say, Anglo-Saxon, right? But it's also more colloquial. Yeah. Phrasal verbs, expressions, everyday expressions. That's why you feel like you don't understand it. You see, it's another type of language. Going back to what I said earlier today, guys, most everyday conversations will happen between B1 and B2 with that type of language that you see in Friends, for example, in other comedy shows. The phrasal verbs, the colloquialisms, the expressions. All right? So, to fix that, Martha, I recommend watching more of these series, becoming more familiar with them, and also understand that most of the communication in colloquial language is not about individual words, but is groups of words, that carry a meaning. For example, I can say that I have a good relationship with my friends. I can say that. You see, I have a good relationship with my friends. That's a pretty standard way of saying this. And I imagine it's easier for you to understand. But in a more colloquial way, I will use the phrasal verb. I get along well with my friends. Did you hear that? I get along well with my friends. Now you have to know the meaning of get along with. You see, it's a full expression of 3 words. If you don't know that meaning of that phrasal verb, you're not going to understand. If you see that in Friends, for example. Let me give you another example. I can say, I really admire you. I admire you. That's easy to understand for us that speak a Latin language. I admire you because, admire, we have the word admire in Spanish, I imagine, in Portuguese, admire, admirar. Oh, yeah, of course. I understand that. But in Friends or in a series, you would see, oh, I really look up to you. I look up to you. You see, look up to someone. So you have to become more comfortable and familiar with that kind of language, the phrasal verbs, the expressions, the colloquial language. All right. But yeah, that was a great comment. It was a great observation. It's true. I've had many students like that who told me that they can read and understand academic papers very well, but watching movies or series is very hard because of that. The colloquialisms. All right. That's an interesting question, Anderson. Teacher, I read the Bible every day. Do you think I reach B2 level vocabulary? Anderson, maybe even more. Yeah, even more. Even C1 vocabulary or and C2. Why? Because reading the Bible in English exposes you to more archaic language as well, So there are many words in the Bible that are very advanced, very advanced. So, I think, if you like to read it, I think it's a great source for you to get exposure to more advanced vocabulary, like C1 and C2 type of vocabulary. For example, the word that we saw today, perspicacious, in English, perspicacious. You don't see that word being used in everyday conversation. But for example, for sure, I'm sure that you're gonna find that word in the Bible at some point, perspicacious. Because in Portuguese it means perspicaz. You are perspicaz. Yeah? So perspicaz in Portuguese, perspicacious in English. That's a C2 level type of word. Now, to those of you, I mean, maybe you go like, oh man, but I don't even know perspicaz in Portuguese. So again, that could be an indication that you have to improve your vocabulary range in Portuguese. If you don't know perspicaz, you're not gonna understand perspicacious in English. It's that simple. But yeah, Anderson, I think that in terms of vocabulary, if you like it, reading the Bible is gonna help you a lot with these more advanced words. But remember, yeah, the language here is more archaic, more advanced, more, So combine that with, exposure to more colloquial English, like Martha just said, series, movies, so you can see how native speakers actually talk in everyday life. This is very important for you to balance these two approaches, okay? But yeah, if you can combine those two, your vocabulary will be very complete, very well-rounded. You will know the formal stuff, but also the colloquial, informal, casual type of language, okay? Got it. Read more, read twice, read an entire book. Yeah, Martha. Yeah, reading is excellent. Reading is an excellent habit to have. In English, in your native language. Tolik. Thiago, what books can you recommend for B2 level? It depends on what you like to read, on genre, right? But for example, I think a nonfiction book that you can read is Atomic Habits. You know that book, Atomic Habits by James Clear? It's a great book that a B2 level learner could read easily, because I really like the way that he writes. He doesn't write in a super crazy sophisticated way. It's very easy to understand his writing. And the ideas from the book are very good. I think they are very valid. It teaches you some principles to implement better habits in your life. So you can start with Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits by James Clear. Another book that I remember that I read in English that didn't have crazy vocabulary in terms of advanced vocabulary was Rich Dad Poor Dad. Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. That was a very easy book to read as well. Rich Dad Poor Dad. The language is pretty direct, straightforward. I would say that most of these nonfiction books, in the personal development sphere, they are quite easy for a B2 level learner to read. Now, fiction, I remember that Harry Potter was relatively easy to read. Harry Potter, I didn't read all of them, but I read a little bit of the first one, and I remember it being easy. But I don't know. I don't know if you like that kind of book. Yeah, so you have to investigate. But Game of Thrones, for example, forget about it. I mean, for B2, I mean, not forget about it, but it's much harder. Yeah, so maybe not yet. Yeah, but start with Atomic Habits. Read one page per day. I think you're gonna like it. Or Rich Dad Poor Dad. Okay. Um. Interesting. Vincenzo, right? Hello, Teacher Thiago. What level is needed to watch a movie in English? It depends on the movie, honestly. Yeah. Some movies are easier than others. Yeah. If you watch a comedy, maybe at A2 level or B1 level, you could understand already. Not everything, but a lot of things. And if you are a B2 level learner who knows phrasal verbs and idioms, you can watch a lot of movies. Yeah, and understand them. All right. Now, imagine a movie, imagine an epic movie like Gladiator. You watch Gladiator, which is something more epic. That is a story that happened like, thousands of years ago. The vocabulary there will be a little bit more archaic, more advanced even, more like the Bible vocabulary if you watch these epic movies, because they depict an era that was like thousands of years ago. Yeah. So I would say at A2 level, you can already understand some things. It depends on the topic of the movie, you know? Um, that's what I would say. All right. I think the best genre for you to start, if you don't have the habit of watching movies and TV series yet to practice English, the best genre is comedy. It's the best one because comedy, you see people in everyday situations, at the restaurant, at the bookstore, at the park, and you can hear how they use English in these everyday situations. Yeah. And then as your listening becomes better, then you can start watching more specific things like epic things, fantasy things that have more like archaic, old-fashioned English, you know? But start with comedies, comedy movies and TV series. Okay. Kimcast. Do you know about is it Lilat exam? No, I don't know. I don't know this exam. Let me see if I can quickly Google it now. Lilat English text. It's a live English test, right? Uh, Look, I don't know about this test, to be honest. It seems to be an online test, right? So, yeah, I really don't know. I will have to read more about it. But from what I can see here, apparently is a test that is taken online, right? It takes about 60 minutes and the results are available in less than 24 hours. Look, remember, I don't know much information about the test, okay? But based on that information, based on the fact that it's only 60 minutes, I would say that maybe it's a practical test, but it's not a, complete test. Like, guys, a B2 level certificate from a test like that it only took you 60 minutes to complete, and a B2 certificate from Cambridge, who took you like 4 hours to complete, is very different. I'm sorry. No two levels are made equal. Yeah. So you also want to take into consideration how long the test is, because longer tests, they demand more from you. Imagine like sitting through a long meeting. Yeah. So you might get a B2 at a 60-minute level, a 60-minute test, but are you going to be able to get that B2 at a 4-hour test? It's very different. So I would say that, like, it seems to me like it's a practical test. Like, if you need maybe a result quickly to show someone, that could be a good option, a good candidate. But for language learning purposes, like for you, for your personal milestone, you really want to know if you got that solid B2 or C1 level, go for something longer. Cambridge, IELTS, even TOEFL. Like, these longer tests that take you at least 3 hours to complete. Okay? Free Eagle. I like the username, Free Eagle. I would like to know your suggestion about which one is better for improving language skills. Watching a movie more than one time or watching more movies? Watching a movie more than one time. Okay? For sure. That's what I did. You know, I did that not because I came up with that strategy. I did that out of necessity, because when I learned English, we didn't have streaming services. We didn't have Netflix, no services like that. So we had to watch the same stuff multiple times. But I found that that was very useful for me, you know, because there are even studies about that. The first time you are exposed to information, to a new piece of information, you absorb very little of that. The first time you watch something, listen to something, or read something, maybe you absorb 10% of that, 15% of that. So it's important that you consume that multiple times, because each time you listen to that again, you watch that again, you read that again, your level of absorption increases. So I really recommend picking a movie that you like, and watching it multiple times in different ways. You can watch it with subtitles in English, then without subtitles. Then you can use it to study, like, pick a 5 minute clip from that movie that you chose and write down some vocabulary, study with it. Spend some time with the same movie, watch it maybe 5 times at least, you know, if it's a favorite, even more. I mean, my favorite movies, I have seen them, I don't know, dozens of time, dozens of times by now, you know? And I think that's very important, especially nowadays, because nowadays we have so much available to us, right, in terms of movies, that it's very easy to finish one movie, go to the next one, and then finish that one, go to the next one. But I think in doing that, jumping around, you are not giving your brain enough time to fully assimilate and absorb all that movie has to offer you. And you will be surprised. I mean, if you picked just one movie, a 2 hour movie, and you spent a whole month just working with that movie, like really working on it, watching it, like I said, subtitles or subtitles, taking notes, really dissecting and analyzing all the language from the movie, by 30 days, you will be surprised at how much that one movie will have taught you, in terms of vocabulary, pronunciation, phrases. Yeah. So quality versus quantity any day. All right. So I would say watch the same thing multiple times. That's the best approach before moving on to the next one. Martha, I really look up to people who study English hard. Yeah, me too. These are my favorite types of students, students who are committed. Yeah, and who really like to study it. Cool. And nowadays online, on YouTube, yeah, you see so much, so many quick promises, right? Easy promises, right? Learn English in 3 months, become fluent in 6 months, you know, learn faster with this hack. Sign of the times, guys. Sign of the times. Yeah. Let me see here. Brother, I'm really shy and afraid to speak in English, but I know that I have enough lexicon for the conversation. What should I do to overcome this? Oh man. Yeah, it's just like improving your reading, you gotta read more. Improving your speaking, you gotta speak more. I mean, I feel kind of stupid saying this because, I wish I could give you a more elaborate, a more complex answer, but it's not. I mean, at the end of the day, the truth is you got to speak more. It's about getting out of your comfort zone, you know, doing more of the thing that you feel uncomfortable with. This is how you grow. This is how you evolve. So if you are terrified of speaking, maybe start with baby steps, yeah, with small steps to, overcome that. But eventually you have to speak more. That's what you have to do. All right. Maybe the book Atomic Habits can help you with that because he talks about micro habits that you can start developing. For example, I am super shy to speak to people. So the next meeting I have in English, I'm just going to force myself to say hello to two different people. I'm going to say hello to two different people. That's it. You see, it's a small habit. Then the next meeting, okay, I'm going to say hello to 5 people. And then you increase it like that, like little by little. But yeah, I mean, to overcome that shyness, you have to speak more. You have to do more of that. And then once you start doing that more, once you start exposing yourself and facing that shyness, that fear that you have, you will see that nothing really bad is going to happen. You're going to go like, oh, I survived. I thought it was going to be something so terrible, but, it wasn't a bad experience. And then that starts giving you the confidence you need to feel, you know, next time. So to be more confident, you need evidence that you can do it. And the way to get evidence is by doing it. If you don't do it, you're not going to get the evidence that you can. So you're not going to feel like you can. Think of driving a car. The same thing, you know? For you to become a confident driver, you have to get in the car and just drive in the traffic. Yeah? It's through those experiences that you will slowly develop your confidence behind the wheel. All right? So a person who has been driving for years feels very comfortable and confident driving than a young person who has just gotten the driver's license and is still driving, still at the beginning of the driving process, you know? So yeah, just you got to do more of that to become more comfortable. That's what I can tell you, you know? But I understand it can be petrifying. Yeah. Okay, okay. All right. All right. Let me see here if there's any more questions. Maybe I can just answer this last one here. Let me see. Misha, right? I have 3 whole days, 24/7 of the week, okay, and months in my life. What do you suggest I do? I watch YouTube in English every day. It's best to improve listening skills. I want to improve my vocabulary. Well, if you have all this free time available, Misha, first of all, I think that's a great thing. So take advantage of that free time you have available, and try to balance the skills. Like you said, watching YouTube every day is great for your listening practice, but are you getting enough reading practice? Reading helps with vocabulary, with grammar, even because you get to learn how the words are spelled, how the punctuation works without necessarily studying grammar, just by reading. you know Writing is also very important. So are you practicing writing enough? Maybe writing emails, writing a diary entry, writing maybe a journal, yeah, how you're feeling on that day, you know? And of course, the speaking, right? How are you practicing the speaking? You can practice shadowing the videos you watch. You can practice recording yourself, speaking alone, but eventually you want to get people to practice conversation with as well. You want to speak to people. If you can get a job that requires you to speak English regularly, that's going to help you as well. I feel like most of my English, yes, it was acquired through study and practice, but also through work. I mean, I've been working in English for years now, yeah. So using that for work also helps you a lot. So that's what I would say. Just try to balance the way you practice and focus on all the skills, not just the listening, but also reading, writing, and speaking. Okay. Very nice, guys. That's it for today. Thank you so much for hanging out. It was great to have you here. Yeah, thank you for hanging out with me today. I hope you found this live useful and fruitful. All right. And that's it for now. So thank you very much. Yeah. Enjoy the weekend, all of you. Have fun, rest a little bit, and we'll be talking soon. Yeah. Next week, hopefully. All right. So thank you so much. I appreciate you and take care, guys.